today. Victims' rights groups have called for stronger punishments for violent offenders after revelations about the criminal past of the man who murdered a New South Wales Central Coast teenager emerged. Brent O'Halloran has more.
There is outrage from victim advocacy groups and a promise for action from the New South Wales Premier following these startling revelations. 19-year-old Audrey Griffin was killed in March after walking home from a venue on the New South Wales Central Coast in the early hours of the morning. Her body was found in a nearby creek. Her alleged killer, Adrian Noel Torrens, died in a prison cell this week while awaiting trial. It's emerged the 53-year-old had a history of domestic abuse and restraining order breaches. In 2020, he was imprisoned for violent offences and he was spared jail after committing a series of crimes 2 months before Miss Griffin's death. The Homicide Victims Support Group has called for an urgent review into sentencing procedures for repeat violent offenders.
I'm obviously aware of those reports and they are concerning, but as soon as we have answers, we'll report them to the family. It may well be part of the coronial inquiry as to the death in custody, and we'll do everything we possibly can to give answers to Audrey's family in the days and weeks ahead.
It's also been revealed by the Daily Telegraph that police had obtained CCTV footage of Mr Torrens walking near Miss Griffin's minutes before her death. The video was sourced on March 24, but it took investigators 3 weeks to find the key images. An oversight reportedly due to the large amount of similar material detectives had gathered.
Well, joining us live is criminology expert Dr Terry Goldsworthy. Thank you so much for joining us. We're just seeing those reports just now, a few of those reports on crime and that new information on CCTV showing the moments before the New South Wales teenager was murdered was in police hands basically for 3 weeks prior to that investigation. What can you tell us regarding that?
Yeah, look, it's interesting. We're not privy to everything the police had in their possession, evidence-wise, etc., or information. But I always took the viewpoint with matters like this that you treat them as suspicious until you can show they're non-suspicious. In this case, it appears that the opposite has happened. The police have said it's non-suspicious, and then 3 weeks later have gone, oh, actually, no, it is suspicious. Now we're treating it as a homicide. I think that's an error in terms of how you approach these investigations. If you look at the information that is in the public realm of a fit young woman who was a triathlete, a surf lifesaver, etc., found face down in a body of water, there's a number of red flags there as to how that would occur. I do have questions about how this investigation panned out in the start, and I note the Premier's comments there. I would think any coronial inquest into this will look at a number of things. They include the sufficiency of the police investigation in its initial stages. Why did it take so long to realise it was a homicide? The adequacy of the sentencing, and also, looking around, why was this person out in public? Was there a reason that this risk could have been managed better?
And what about, Terry, we're continuing to see crimes posted on social media, and the Courier Mail reporting that people are allegedly bragging about the cars they have stolen. That's just one of many stories. Is this in relation, though, to the adult crime laws, do you think?
Yeah, this is interesting. So on the papers in Queensland today, they're talking about youths actually responding to those laws. We often get told that young people wouldn't actually know what the government's doing or what the laws are changing in what manner. Well, this clearly shows that's not true, that these young people are aware of the steps being taken by the government. Up here, we have put in place laws that ban the posting on social media of criminal events, and there are circumstances of aggravation. You expose yourself to extra punishment if you get caught doing it. And these videos we've seen publicly available today would indicate that these young people see this and they're taunting the government, but they're also very dismissive of the police. I mean, they have absolutely no fear of the police. And I put that down to the fact that we have a very restrictive pursuit policy in Queensland. We've seen the police give up their pursuit vehicles, etc., and they're now driving around in hybrid SUVs, so they're more economical. I think we need to have a look at how we're going about approaching these issues. Are we serious about solving crime? Because certainly these young offenders don't take the police seriously, nor the government. And I think there's a lot of room for some improvement there in terms of what this approach will be to deal with these hardcore offenders.
And from a national scale, what are your thoughts on, the federal election, obviously a week away? How are you seeing both sides of government, state or federal for that matter? And what do we really need to do more of, do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. So far in the federal election, crime sits in some of the polls about the third big issue for people. The problem with the federal government or federal, Labor or Liberal is that crime is vested with the states for the majority of the powers under the Constitution. So there's not that much they can do about state-based offences, etc. So we've seen an announcement of a illicit tobacco task force by the ALP. Peter Dutton and the LNP announced a probably broader crime policy, and that's because he's probably playing to what he sees as one of his strengths, that being law and order. So they've got an anti-Semitism task force. They've proposed a national child sex offender register. Now, we already have one of them that the police themselves manage. This one will be a limited access register, so it's not public, but members of the public can make application to access information if they're concerned someone is interacting with their child. They also have funding for, drugs, etc., and also including illicit tobacco. So there's been more movement in the crime front, I guess, from the LNP in terms of those issues federally. Again, I think it's a state issue, really. I mean, they're talking about expanding Jack's laws, which is the wanding for knives. You need state assistance and approval to get that to happen. So these are things that have to be negotiated with the states. Other than that, we really haven't seen that much focus on law and order during this election. I think cost of living is and foremost. And law and order is probably something that people aren't really think that much of in terms of federal issues.
Yeah, and as you said, it's really a state issue. But there's so much going on out there crime-wise. We've got to wrap it up. But Dr. Terry Goldsworthy, thank you as always.
Thanks, Jane.
The Nationals